Thanks very much. Welcome back. Morning, everybody. So, as I mentioned yesterday, on Monday, my daughter had her 5th birthday, and by the SDG deadline in 2030, she's going to be 18. So as a dad, and as just a person who cares about the world, it's really important that all girls like her, and boys too, are able to reach their full potential. But for hundreds of millions of girls who are not on track, we're not currently on track to make that happen. And one of the main reasons, we heard about that a little bit in the panel before, is the massive burden of malnutrition that they face. Now, the heaviest impacts fall on women and girls, and among them, adolescent girls are the most neglected. So as one example, over 300 million adolescent girls suffer from anemia, and iron deficiency anemia is the largest source of preventable disability in the world for adolescent girls. So we've talked a little bit about money, benefit cost, $3.5 trillion lost because of malnutrition each year. Benefit cost ratio, George, 16-1. But beyond the numbers for a minute, if you think about $5.3 trillion, which is the amount of fossil fuel subsidies that we spent in 2015, $1.6 trillion spent on weapons last year, the appropriate response is outrage. Outrage followed by a path of action and the right conversation leads to change. And that's why I am really, really delighted to be having this conversation and be a part of this panel. There's a sense of urgency here. And it's no coincidence that we have two particular global leaders, in fact, but two, Katja Iversen, the CEO of Women Deliver, who will be our moderator, and Geert de Verberg, the coordinator of the Scaling Up Nutrition movement. You know, why are they both here? I haven't seen this before, so welcome to both of you. Nutrition is a women's empowerment issue, and it's a gender issue because poverty and malnutrition are sexist. And they impact the potential of generation after generation of adolescents to grow, to be healthy, to learn in school, to go on to earn money, and to lead. So these two global voices together are a very positive signal of the convergence and growing momentum around empowerment of women and girls and the importance of nutrition. I'm also delighted to introduce Nutrition International's Chief Technical Officer, Dr. Luz Maria de Regil, whose name sounds like a poem, a global award-winning voice in the research and practice of how to scale up nutrition, particularly for women and girls. And finally, it is a really great pleasure to have with us Tsede Tekla-Michael Haile, an adolescent project coordinator who works in the distribution of weekly iron and folic acid supplements to adolescents in rural Ethiopia. So she brings valuable first-hand insight into the challenges and opportunities for scaling up nutrition for adolescents in hard-to-reach areas, connecting our conversation here truly from the grassroots to the global. And with apologies, Tsede, in Amharic, that quote that I love so much, Dir biabir anbesa yasir, if all of us put our webs together, we can even catch a lion. And in this case, the lion this panel will try to catch, under Katja's leadership and moderation, is the ability to transform, to get transformational change in terms of adolescent health with a focus on nutrition. So thank you very much, Katja. I turn it over to you, and I'm delighted by this panel. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I'm going to start with a tweet. Nutrition and SRHR are not oranges and apples. We must collaborate, integrate, and invest in #adolescents, #GlobalYouth 2017, #nutrition. At Women Deliver, we not only believe, we know that young people and adolescents are amazing change makers. We heard yesterday and this morning that we must work together, not a big surprise, not a secret, but we must work together so that young people and adolescents have the tools and the resources that they need to make positive change in their lives, in their communities, for themselves, for their families. And one of the critical issues we need to talk about when we talk about young people and adolescents is nutrition. We know that women and girls often eat least and last. We know that men and boys, or that many boys and girls in developing countries enter adolescence undernourished, which makes them vulnerable. We know that there are dire consequences in general for poor nutrition. 800,000 newborn die every year because of poor nutrition among pregnant women. We must, as a global community, focus on the whole girl, the whole woman, the whole adolescent, not just her health needs, her educational needs, or her rights, but also the other issues that affects, and look at it through an integrated approach. So involve young people and adolescents themselves to hear their part of the story, to know what they need is key. We need them at the decision table. And as I often say, if you are not at the table, you're often on the menu, and this menu is not very delicious if we are not involving and if we're not including nutritious food. So let's stock up on the fruits and vegetables now and turn to our panelists for a nutritional boost for the way to come. We have a great lineup that Joel just presented, and this is how we're going to proceed. First, each of the panelists will address the challenges that we face, but of course we're not going to stay in that, because we're not going to just talk about the problem. This is about solution, it's about action, because then we'll move to a panel discussion about the solutions and the opportunities. Then we will open the floor for Q&A, and we'll wrap up with some nutritious takeaways, and make sure, and I'll try to make sure as a moderator that we really have time for interaction. It's a push one, but on this time, but let's get started. So my first question goes to Luz Marie de Hill. So you are probably one of the biggest experts in the world on nutrition and adolescence. So from your seat and from your work, what is the biggest challenge that you see regarding adolescent nutrition right now?
Well, one big challenge is that frequently nutrition is hidden. So when we look around, we see and we think that 1 out of 2 adolescents or 1 out of 3 are anemic. We never think that they are, because they are anemic, they are tired, they are a little bit sick. They think, oh, no, that's a girl. She has like a problem. She doesn't want to talk to us. But maybe she doesn't have the energy. She cannot perform activities. So one of the big challenges is making sure that people understand what the effects of undernutrition in adolescent girls, but also understanding that this is a period for high vulnerability. We talk about undernutrition. Anemia is, as Joel mentioned, the leading cause of iron deficiency. Anemia is the leading cause of disability, but also this period is about vulnerability for non-communicable diseases. This is the period where habits that may likely last throughout the life are established, and if girls and boys do not establish the proper habits, they very likely will have problems with NCDs in the future, non-communicable diseases. So that is one of the problems, awareness. Then, once we are aware of the problem, it's hard to reach. It's hard. Adolescents, I mean, they have mentioned it before. It's hard to talk to them, and it's hard to talk about them. So we don't know how to reach them. The delivery platforms are not clear. So we have a nutrition intervention that works, weekly iron and folic acid supplementation. But as we are Nutrition International make the commitment of reaching 100 million adolescent girls in the next 5 years, and it's hard to find the platforms to reach them with that proven intervention. So we are working through schools, we are working through the communities, and we are going to hear about that. So it's hard to figure out how better we can reach them. We know that we have to collaborate with some sectors. We are trying to mainstream nutrition through them, with WASH, as I said, with education. And the last piece is that we don't have data. So we know about anemia, but we don't know what else. So, and we know, intuitively, we know that the problem goes beyond one deficiency, but we don't know what the magnitude of the deficiency and to which extent there is a gender difference. We intuitively say that, but it's difficult to articulate in an evidence-based approach the magnitude of the problem. So a call for collecting data, it's important.
Thanks a lot. So awareness, reach, and data.
Yep.
Some of the biggest
If I can add another one, work with the girls.
Yeah, right. Today, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All the way from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And talking about reach, you know, you're probably the one in this panel who is, at least I can speak for myself on that one, who's most in contact with the adolescent that we are actually trying both to reach and to work with and to change the lives with.
Yes.
What's the biggest challenge from where you're not sitting, because I know you're not sitting a lot, you're standing and running and doing what, how do you see it?
Yeah, thank you. As a project coordinator, I am working with 20,000 adolescents in one of the order in Ethiopia. And there are different modalities to give this supplement. One of those are the school modality, and those who can attend the school, we supplement with the out-of-school adolescents. And depending on the context, there are different challenges we faced during the supplementation. One of the challenges we have come across is the water shortage. We have 38 schools to cover. From these 38 schools, only 8 of them has water supply, clean water supply. Sometimes the 8 ones might not get the water sustainably, so it may get shut down any time of the day. So water supply in the schools are one of the bigger challenges we have come across. And also in the out-of-school adolescent supplementation, there's also water supply problems. Many of them will go a distance to fetch water with a small can or with a small cup. So this thing makes it difficult to give the supplement regularly and to keep with their adherence with the winter level. The other is school absenteeism. Girls don't come to schools usually, but we tried to decrease this thing by doing market days. Tuesday and Thursday are usually the market days in our area, so we try to give the supplement on Wednesday. Even doing that, girls do not come to schools at least once a month, as I noticed. I'm not sure the statistics, but one girl may not come at least once a month. So for the reason for this are they might be staying home and help with their parents with different works at home, and they will do business to support their family because they are from low income area, and the food shortage we are facing related to the climate change. That's one thing that is making them to stay at home instead of getting to school. Drought is one of the problems we are facing now. The other is the misconceptions related to the supplement. Many of the adolescent girls, both in school and out of school adolescent girls, think that the supplement we are giving is a contraceptive. So we have many nutritional education sessions to give to come up with to mitigate these misconceptions and other things. So the other is a school feeding program. We have no school feeding program in Ethiopia, in our order. So having this school feeding program would benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. You pinpoint a lot on the integration issues. You touch on education, absentee, linked to WASH, culture, norms, the supplies, of course. So that's the very lived reality on the ground. And thank you for sharing that. And jumping straight from that and to global, as global as it gets. Gerda, it's a year ago since we were sharing the stage the first time at a small conference called Women Deliver in Copenhagen, where we launched a campaign together to work together. But you leading the Sun movement, you work globally so much. So what's the biggest challenge from where you stand?
The picture on nutrition, good morning everyone, and thank you for the excellent and very interesting conference so far. But I see a picture with 4 pieces of the jigsaw, and we have heard the word jigsaw already several times. The first problem is that a lot of governments, don't have ownership on the question and topic of nutrition. They don't have it on adolescents as well, but nutrition is not owned by, as a challenge by governments. So that's the first thing. The second point is that if there is no ownership at the government level, there will be no investment. And if you want to solve a problem, you have to put your money where your mouth is. Without investments from the domestic budget, there will be no sustainable nor durable solution for the position of adolescent girls and boys, nor for nutrition. The third part of the puzzle is the problem of making the different government sectors working together, because nutrition is not a topic of food. It's not only a topic of education. It's not only health. It is from all and everything. So in some countries you need 12 or 13 departments to work together. So making the different sectors working together is the next point. And then to implement it, you also need to have the different stakeholders. The different stakeholders, of course, NGOs and players in society, but also the private sector, also the media, academia, etc. And in the panel previous to this one, I noticed that some of the participants were like, when there was the discussion on investment from the private sector, because private sector investment means maximum profit, is still the thought. So this is also a challenge. Multiple sectors, multiple stakeholders do not easily work together. And the final part of the picture is inequality. Too many girls, inequality. Too many girls are brought up with the idea that they are second-quality human beings. And if they are not brought up with this idea, they encounter in life that there still is a difference between girls and boys. And this is so all over the world. Probably Canada is one of the front runners in equity and equality, but in a lot of countries we still have equality topics, let alone equity topics.
Ownership, investment, collaboration, attention, and inequality. Nothing else, nothing less. Thank you. But just so it doesn't get too depressed with all the challenges, I know that this panel is an amazing panel. If you haven't read about them yet, I want to encourage you to check out the app. It's a really cool app, and it has these beautiful bios on each of them, including Joel. So check that out. But first, after the session, because now you need to listen. That was the challenges.
Yeah.
But luckily, with the change makers up here, we also have a lot of solutions. So just a question to all of you. What are the best solutions and opportunities to scale up nutrition for adolescents? And let's be specific on the adolescents part. So who want to jump in first? And then I might drill a little further down.
Well, I must say that I will change my answer. You just asked that before, and I had some solution, and I was thinking about the scaling up and the regular stuff, but as I was hearing in the panel fellows, I was thinking that what is needed is leadership. You need someone that is opening the door, knocking the door, saying, okay, I have a commitment. I have Canada. Canada is already committing money to do this, to, as I said, to make this visible. But also, we, from Nutrition International, we are knocking the doors of the governments. We are saying, yes, we have these programs. We are willing to open the doors and test. There is going to be a lot of trial and error here. And say, well, we believe this intervention works. We believe that we can engage the community. We believe that we can do more. And actually, the other piece is not leadership, but also generosity. We believe that we can share the knowledge, so others come after us and join the movement. So that is, for me, a key thing for scaling up. Of course, I can talk about technical issues. I can talk about generating more evidence, more implementation research. But if you don't have the principles reading, you cannot scale up anything.
Somebody who can kick in the door and be the real advocates
And share.
nudger and do it, yeah. Others? Gerda?
If you have 4 parts of the problem, you also have 4 parts of the solution. So my first solution will be make nutrition part of elections and involve members of parliament and make sure that governments take ownership. There is a good message to share because every dollar invested in nutrition means $16 return at the minimum, and it's a number of the World Bank, so it is improving GDP, economic development. And the other issue, the other reason you can give is that nutrition is the foundation for the implementation of each of the Sustainable Development Goals. Without better improved nutrition, no ending of poverty. Without improved nutrition, no better education, no better health. Mention it and you need improved nutrition. So if your government and your parliament is serious about the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, this is the topic to start with and to make sure that members of parliament make it also a priority in the country. Secondly, if there is if the ownership starts, make sure that part of the domestic budget is also invested, because putting your money where your mouth is reasonable, and then you can come in with donors, with investment from pension funds, with other investment from the World Bank or development banks or whatever. But the first investment has to be done in the country itself. The collaboration issue. There is a big topic also for all participants here. So don't avoid critical dialogues, but have the focus on collaboration for results. In previous panels we have heard the word think in scale. I would add there focus on results at grassroots, because without advocacy we cannot reach results, but with only policy development, with only process and with only advocacy, we will not have results. So the focus must be on implementation, on scalability, on results. And last but certainly not least, I would encourage each and all of you to be an ambassador for equality, sex equality, gender equality and equity. Not only women, but also men. We need men in their role as brother, father, decision-making, religious leader, policy maker, private sector entrepreneur, whatever, however you want to see your family thrive. Invest in it and make sure that your children, your family, that all persons are equal.
And now I'm not just going to be a moderator and kind of pass the mic, but I actually have a comment for that. And that's also what I hope that people will jump in. I think you're pinpointing something. You're saying so many smart things, Gerda. But you know, kind of advocacy, action, ambassador, investment, making it an economic case. But what I just want to pick up on also, it is the collaboration. You know, if we all treat each other as competitors instead of colleagues, we're not going to solve these issues. We'll just kind of be fighting for our own little budget and our own little headline and our own little whatever. But it is when we get together like this and look at the integration of the issues that we can actually move the agenda. Yeah. So you come to it from a nutrition point of view. We come from it from a broader health, rights and well-being point of view from Women Deliver, but also with the sexual and reproductive health and rights focus in maternal health. Sure. And broader than that, but for me, that's really one of the key things. It's wonderful to see a nutrition panel here, but it is part of a bigger thing. Sure. And that, I like what you said on that one as well. Today, what do you do to overcome the tremendous challenges that you just outlined? Because you're standing with it without the supplies and sometimes in a hostile environment. What do you do?
Yeah, to start with, Adolescent girls which are out of schools are difficult to reach, and we couldn't get the number we estimated we would get. We expect to get around 2,500 adolescent girls, but we only got around 723 one. Okay, so we only got around 723, which is around 31% of the out-of-school adolescent girls. So what we did was we used the existing health system, which is the health extension worker, which works in the nearby area to the community, so that they could reach through the Health Development Army, who are volunteers from the community. They were informed to bring any girl that is 10 to 90 years old, so that she could benefit from the iron and folic acid supplementation, which was named with the local language, Madiaro. They call it Madiaro. So they were asked to bring the girl to take Madiaro. So the HD helps us with identifying and tracking those girls who is difficult to reach and who is far from the health posts. That's one solution we come across to re-identify and to get adolescents which are out of school. The other is integration with the existing system. We didn't bring our own system to start and implement this program. We go with the existing the health system. The supply also, they go to the district health office and go through the health posts and to the out-of-school adolescents and to the schools. So we use the integration, integrating with the malaria prevention, deworming activity, and other WASH activities would help to overcome this problem. The other is we used motivator girls in the school. Motivator girls are 10 to 50 girls which are selected by their confidence, communication skill, ability to speak, and ability to persuade others. And these adolescent motivator girls will help on the overcoming the misconceptions that the students have. And the male teacher would help by taking the supplement so that to show the adolescent girls that it's not contraceptive. So male teachers took the supplement. This is what we did to overcome the challenges. And the main thing we did was branding of the iron folic acid supplementation. It really helped us to get us acceptance from the community, because community support is the main thing in this kind of project. If we get community support, it would be we will be adhered to the program, it will get acceptance, and we will see the change we want to see. That was. Thank you.
Thanks, amazing. So you work politically on the whole system strengthening and really that, but you also work very practically on getting the goods to the right people at the right time in the right manner so that it's acceptable, and work with one of the things that you said, Gerda, about you have ambassadors, you have the people who stand up and do it so it becomes natural and normal and okay. Right? What, just kind of to link, you know, Luz being one of the lead researchers in this field, what do you need today on the ground from, for example, a lead researcher in the world or kind of the one heading the big, what could they do to help your work? I know that we have not asked you that before, but, you know, could you kind of...
I mean, I think that we need coordination and communication. Very few organizations are advancing adolescent nutrition and communicating that. We are collaborating with other researchers, trying to put all the evidence together, but also we are saying, these are our protocols, for example, for formative research. We are investing in that. We can share the learning so others come and they don't have to do the things. The challenge is not the research piece, it's how we accelerate the knowledge so the action is faster. So we are sharing that. So what do I need? I need more systems in the sense of what as a community we want to look at. We need a global agenda for research in this area. So we are not having isolated efforts and trying to generate solutions that are frequently unimplementable. In most of the cases, and we have tried some, we have some trials that work at the facility level in a hospital, and we cannot make it work because we don't know, and the communities are not ready, we don't have the capacity in nutrition to make it work. So we have to learn from our fellows in the field. We have to elevate their voice. We have using our research skills and to make it systematic, and then we can share the knowledge with other partners.
And you're not allowed to say money.
No, I don't say money. What we need to see is the drive with people who have the drive to make it happen, to join forces, for instance, in awareness and communication, but also in smart combinations of water and sanitation and hygiene and all these kind of things we are discussing these 2 days. So the will to make it happen, the implementation and the scalability, that's one thing. The other thing is indeed awareness and communication, because too often I meet with people who say, okay, let's first solve the hunger problem and then we can focus on nutrition. As long as this is going on sometimes at government level, we're not there. We have a lot to do and a lot ahead. The final thing we need is inspiring examples and inspiring stories that are brought to the table, not only the national table, but also the international table, because to inspire each other, learn from each other is of crucial importance. If another country can do it, or another community can do it, why can't we do it?
So, questions from here, I am sure you have it. I would actually ask you to ask questions and not make statements. If you stand up and make statement, I am going to stop you. So who would have questions to this distinguished panel? I see one over here. And how do we do about mics?
Mics are there.
And I'm going to take 3. So if people would just kind of just raise your hands, then I can kind of see. We'll take 3 to start with. Yes, there are 3 right down there. Yes.
I wonder if the problem is also just the iron folic acid itself. Do we need innovation in terms of how it's in its form? Like, is a pill itself part of the problem in delivery? Can we think about putting it in other forms, like in a gummy, or I don't know, some other innovative method of delivery rather than in the pill form?
Great, thank you.
What's that right now?
So not yet, we'll take 3.
I'm Gwyneth Cotes. I'm the Deputy Director of the Spring Nutrition Project. And what I'm hearing a lot of are challenges and opportunities that I think we could speak about nutrition more broadly, but I'd really like to hear more about what specifically with adolescents are real challenges that you are identifying, and how do we need to address them differently based on their physical, their emotional needs, their social networks. So as particularly those of us in the nutrition community, how do we break out of our traditional ways of thinking to really get to this population?
Right. Thank you. Would you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Johannes Paulus from Cameroon. I did spend some time in Niger and in the rural communities in Niger, and my experience in Niger were deplorable. I went to Niger and I was given spaghetti in the middle of the desert. No grass, no vegetables, no vegetation. Animals were dying and everything. And to me, it puzzled me because we have multilateral organizations, supporting countries, especially countries that are going through a crisis, conflict. And how do we track progress in terms of the money that goes to support countries that are going through a process of conflict, and making sure that this money is actually going to help the people that actually need it? Thank you.
Great. That was 3 good questions. Very specific on the pill. How do we address adolescents differently, and how do we track progress? Nothing less than that. Luz, would you start?
So the first one was?
It was on the iron acid pill?
Yeah. So let me see if I understood correctly the question. It's about whether the supplement is the problem itself, or we need innovation in this area to make it more easy. Innovation, yes, is always needed. I know that there are people that are trying to see whether we can deliver folic acid, for example, with patches. Yes, innovation is needed, but at this point we cannot wait until innovation comes. We need to deliver what works, and still we have challenges. I will tell you one story. The iron and folic acid supplement that we are using now, the recommended dose by WHO is not available in the market. So we have to work at that level with the producers to make sure that it's at the market at a reasonable price, because we found that only one laboratory in the world was selling it, and the price was 17 times higher than the regular supplements. So we have to be innovative, not only in the form of the supplement, but in terms of how we finance this. For example, so with advanced commitments, we can reduce the cost, and at least we can start testing that intervention. And from the biological side, I will just push this. I would say we know that iron and folic acid supplements have many problems. They create side effects, and people don't like it to take it. One of the things, and my colleague here can comment on it, is that this intervention is one supplement once a week. It's more efficient. It's more efficient in terms of absorption. And the side effects are minimum, experience 2 hours, 1 hour, once a week, and we tend to forget about that. So the cost benefit is much more higher. So yes, we need innovation, and we need to encourage it, because I'm sure that there are a lot of creative answers to this problem.
Right, thank you. Today, would you talk a little bit about how do we, because we also spoken a little bit generally about nutrition today, I'm absolutely aware, but honing in on the adolescent boy or girl, how do we reach them specifically?
Yeah. I would say, if you allow me, Madam Moderator, I would say it's a double win, because adolescents are change agents, and they are millennials, and most of them are giving birth to the next generation. So it's a win-win. It's an investment in the adolescent, but it's also an investment in the next generation. And we all know that once it comes to pregnancy, the first 1,000 days are of immense importance. But I also think that we should use smart ways of awareness raising and support. Why not making use much more of cell phones, smartphones, messages to adolescents focused on their situation to support them, etc. So make use of new technology as well.
Today, you have something to add to this?
Yeah, related to the IFA supplement, the one with the innovation. I think this one is better, in my opinion, because we should consider the price, so that when the scale-up is implementing, we should start with the least amount, since it's a developing country and the government would support it. If the price is with a small amount, we can use the patch, as Lou said, but we have to see from the effectiveness of the cost from that side. And related to the side effect of the supplement, in our implementation sites, we haven't come with major side effects, and maybe now there are sometimes. That happens when the adolescents haven't taken any food. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may just add, what about asking them and including them in project design and policy making? That's kind of one of the, then you ask what they want, and that's a better way to get it. Or use this fabulous, kind of adolescent health advocacy strategy, kind of plan toolkit. So that's a couple of good steps. We have a couple of questions. We need to be a little quick because I'm getting signs up here. But yeah, thanks.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Nielsen from Helen Keller International. There is a small but very intriguing literature about the potential for growth recovery during the adolescent growth period, but it's also extremely tricky because too much nutrition can either accelerate the onset of menses, which will reduce the potential for growth, or of course there's the risk of obesity. So there's a huge amount of need for
if I may?
Yes, there's need for research, and I'm wondering if any of your organizations is considering that kind of research to understand better how we can overcome the problem of stunting through the adolescent period. Thank you.
So I'm Zulfi Bhutta. I have two quick questions, Madam Moderator, if you will allow me. The first pertains to the issue of conflict and what our evidence-based nutrition policies are within conflict for adolescents in particular. So I'm leading a consortium of academic centers which is looking at the entire evidence base of what works in those settings across the RMNCH continuum. So my specific question is, what are we doing for improving our current guidance on nutrition interventions for adolescents and school and younger children in conflict settings where more often than not it's not a single nutrient deficiency. You're not only dealing with micronutrient deficiencies, you're dealing with wasting and a fair amount of nutrition intervention requirements that go across the board. So that's my question number one. The question two, if I may quickly slip it in, is while undernutrition is a bigger focus in those kind of circumstances, the growing evidence around the double burden and particularly growing obesity or overweight in urban slums with particularly adolescent girls where there is an issue in terms of physical activity and mobility. What are the solutions that we are recommending at this point in time to ensure that we can tackle both of those in two diverse, different circumstances?
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Alison Riddle with the University of Ottawa. I'm looking at the linkages between female empowerment and its integration in nutrition-specific interventions for adolescent girls, and I would love to hear the panel's perspective or any experiences in terms of interventions such as those related to IFA supplementation that actually take an empowerment approach, and if there are any organizations or studies that you're aware of that are working on that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was some really good questions. They were a little long, so we are running a little on the late side. So I think also some of them will be addressed in side conversations because, as I said, I'm getting signals and I want to let the panelists have their last words. So, all three of you. Now we talked about the challenges, we've talked about solutions, some of the solutions, there are many. We've talked about involvement. What do you want people here to go home and do? You have an amazing audience who are actually powerful in so many ways in so many different places.
Let me repeat what Amina Mohammed yesterday said. Lead from where you are. You all are in a position where you can do something about it. And let me ask you two things. Find a moment every day where you ask yourself, what did I do in favor of an adolescent today in my personal area, environment, and what did I do to support adolescents and nutrition in my professional area?
Thank you. Today?
I would like to say that nutrition, having nutritious food or safe food is not enough for the adolescent nutrition. We should do a multi-sectoral approach like reproductive health, safe water supply, malaria prevention, and resource allocation on that area. So investing in this adolescent means investing on the future, and these are the parents of the future generation. So I'll say invest in adolescent nutrition to have a better outcome and to overcome the intergenerational malnutrition cycle. Thank you.
Rosemary?
I will end with a tweet too.
Sorry?
I will end with a tweet as well. You started with it and I will start with it. I will end with that. Is look after and work with adolescents for better nutrition. It will change the future. Hashtag Women's Nutrition Now.
Fabulous. So try it again. Not sure everybody got it. Look
after and work with adolescents for better nutrition. Period. It will change the future. Hashtag Women's Nutrition Now.
Thanks a lot. So it's time to wrap up. And thanks to the panelists for sharing your insights and work. And thanks to a great audience who have not laughed as much as we had hoped, but I'm sure it will be coming. And thanks to Joel for a great start and kicking it off. For me, the bottom line is linked to the tweet is we must work with, invest in adolescents' overall health, rights and well-being, and nutrition play such an important part in that. We must link to the Sustainable Development Goal. It is a leading framework right now, and it can be used as a lever. It is the first time that adolescent is addressed as they are. It's also really strong on the nutrition part. The global strategy for women's, children's, and adolescents' health has a strong link to kind of has an integrated approach. So really use those on the global level, really use those tools to get it on the agenda.
5 tweets.
I'm not even gotten to the tweets yet, but most of all, we need to work together because we are such a powerful community when we stand together. So I hope the panel has inspired you, and our goal for this whole thing was that when you walk out for the next nutritious caffeine kick or what we have out there is that you'll think, I just need to look at my work and also think nutrition. And wasn't there somebody over there that I needed to talk to? So that's what we hope for. So I also have the last tweet. To nourish change, boost nutrition for adolescent girls, viva, exclamation mark, adolescents, viva, exclamation mark, hashtag Global Youth 2017.